The Kansas City Chiefs finished the 2024 season with a 15-2 record and made it to the Super Bowl for the 5th time in the last 6 years. Unfortunately, they did not three-peat as they lost to the Eagles by a score of 40-22.
Firing, intercepted, picked up by Cooper DeJean, gets a block, DeJean!
And as we know, the 40-22 final score was a lot prettier than how the game was actually played.
Intercepted again! This time it's Zach Ball to the Eagles.
There was a point where the Chiefs were down 40-6, and in a lot of ways, Super Bowl 59 for Kansas City is best forgotten. But despite going 15-2 in the regular season, there was not just one, but several wins where the Chiefs won by the skin of their teeth. Whether it was the Isaiah Likely foot out of bounds in Week 1, or the defensive pass interference call to keep the drive alive in Week 2, or the no call against Atlanta in Week 3, or perhaps the most famous one, the blocked kick against the Broncos in Week 10, the Chiefs' regular season last year was anything but stress-free. But a win is a win, and the Chiefs certainly know how to win. But how will they do in 2025? How will they respond to a true ass-kicking on the biggest stage for the second time in 5 years? Well, we're going to break everything down with the 2025 Chiefs in today's video. And if you think the dynasty is completely over and they're going to fall from grace, well, I have bad news for you, because the Kansas City Chiefs are not going anywhere. And before we start, if you could like the video, I would really appreciate it, and without further ado, let's begin. And we are starting today's video by discussing who the Chiefs brought in free agency and who they lost in free agency. And despite the fact the Chiefs went 15-2 last year and made it back to the Super Bowl, one of the most frustrating parts of the season for Kansas City, aside from injury of course, was the rotating door they had at left tackle. Between playing Kingsley Suamataia and Wanya Morris for most of the regular season, both who did not work out at left tackle, they eventually put Joe Thuney in at left tackle for the remainder of the year starting in Week 15. Thuney was traded to the Bears this offseason, and the most amount of money the Chiefs spent on a free agent was with former 49ers offensive lineman Jalen Moore. They brought him in on a 2-year, $30 million contract and gave him $21 million guaranteed, so this was not a small contract by any means. Jalen Moore was selected in the 5th round back in 2021 by the 49ers and has only played a little over 800 career snaps. So while Brett Veach was proactive in free agency addressing a clear need, I do think Moore is a huge gamble all things considered. Now, I really like their first round tackle in Josh Simmons, and we'll discuss him more later, but I was genuinely surprised to see Jalen Moore receive a contract with an AAV, or average annual value, of $15 million per year. They also brought in corner Christian Fulton from the Chargers, who had one of the better years of his career last year, and not just with the Chiefs, but with any team. If you bring in a quality corner in free agency, or a guy who is going to raise the floor of the corner room, I am all for it every single time. Obviously, he's not going to CB1 on this team with Trent McDuffie, but they took a player from their division rival and upgraded a position that, I don't want to say desperately needed it, but certainly adds depth to a room that was not the best in the league by any means last year. Aside from Moore and Fulton, they brought back a lot of their own guys like Charles Omenihu, Kareem Hunt, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Mike Pennell, to name a few. They also did bring in running back Elijah Mitchell from the 49ers, though I don't know how much of a role he is truly going to have in this offense just from a sheer volume standpoint. They lost a few guys in free agency, and Chiefs fans are very familiar with this, as that's generally what happens when you win a lot of games and have a good roster, as 31 other teams are going to want your players. Carolina signed Tershawn Wharton to a 3-year, $45 million deal, and this contract surprised me because I didn't think he was going to get $15 million per year, but good for him and his family. Wharton was an undrafted free agent back in 2020 and had the best year of his career in 2024 with Kansas City, as he had over 30 pressures and 6.5 sacks. They also lost veteran safety Justin Reed, who had came over from the Texans during the 2022 offseason, as Reed signed a 3-year, $31 million contract with the Saints. Receiver DeAndre Hopkins went to the Ravens on a 1-year, $5 million deal, and the Hopkins trade to me was always going to be a half-year rental, and if the Chiefs won the Super Bowl and three-peated, nobody would have cared what it cost to bring him in midway through the 2024 season. What has to be remembered for Kansas City is they have a very, very talented roster, meaning they didn't need to, nor were they going to be a very active team in free agency because a lot of their money is already allocated to guys on the roster, or in a few cases, giving their guys new contracts before they hit free agency, which is something they're going to have to do a lot of in the next year or so. And credit where it's due, they do not have a lot of dead cap money as they currently rank 26th in the NFL in dead cap money entering 2025. Now, regarding the 2024 Chiefs defense, this was a very weird year for the entire Chiefs team because a lot of their numbers don't make sense. It doesn't make sense that a team would go 15-2 after finishing 15th in points per game offensively and 4th in points allowed per game defensively. You can say maybe they'd go 11-6 or something like that, but 15-2 and really 15-1 because of the Denver game in Week 18, which was a 38-0 loss when KC started their backups. KC had the longest average time per drive and the most amount of plays per drive offensively, which in turn helped out their defense. I would expect much of the same this year from a complementary football standpoint. The Chiefs obviously saw firsthand how much a pass rush can dominate a big game, not just once, but really twice within the past 5 years, and I really like what they did by bringing in Tennessee's Omar Norman-Lott, along with already having George Karlaftis and Chris Jones to get after the quarterback. Karlaftis and Chris Jones each had 60-plus pressures last year, and that was huge because they didn't really have anyone else that could consistently get after the quarterback. I know we discussed Tershawn Wharton earlier, but for reference, he had 33 pressures on 455 pass rushing snaps in 2024, meaning he wasn't exactly in the backfield regularly. The Chiefs' pass rush in a lot of ways was a two-headed monster in Karlaftis and Jones. I know some fans want Felix and Adike Uzama to break out this year, and I know I've mentioned on the channel countless times that it takes guys a year or two to develop along the trenches because of the adjustment period to the level of strength in the NFL, but I'll be honest, I'm not an FAU guy. I don't think Felix and Adike Uzama is going to be a great player for this team. This is, in a lot of ways, a now or never year for him, and I know he is just 23 years old and is the same age or even younger than a lot of rookies, but I don't see the vision for him at this point personally. If I'm wrong, I'll be the first to admit it, but I am out on FAU at this point. But one player I love on this defense and a player who I think is incredibly underrated is linebacker Leo Chenal. And between Chenal, Drew Tranquill, and of course Nick Bolton, I do like this linebacking core quite a bit. Stepping up to replace Justin Reed is going to be difficult, and he signed with the Saints this year, but 2024 4th-round pick Jaden Hicks is a guy that I think will be a big breakout candidate, and a player who I think will do a really solid job in 2025. I thought there were legit flashes from Jaden Hicks at times in 2024, and he had 3 interceptions in limited playing time, and I don't think that happened by accident. Obviously, there can be a lucky interception or two, but I do think he's going to be a guy who will be in the right place at the right time and is a high IQ football player, and because of how many big names there are in this team, I think there is a very real chance that Jaden Hicks can be an unsung hero throughout the 2025 season. Trent McDuffie is, of course, Trent McDuffie. He's a back-to-back All-Pro for a reason, and will soon be heavily compensated. I also really liked the addition of Christian Fulton because it was an upgrade to the defense, and inevitably provides a bit of depth too. This is a deeper corner room than a lot of people think, and I have very few concerns with the Chiefs' defense entering 2025 outside of a major injury or something we can't predict. I think there is a scenario where we are talking about George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, and rookie Omar Norman-Lott having a field day with opposing offensive lines in January, and the Chiefs' defense again should be one of the best units in all of football. The 2025 Chiefs rookie impact has the potential to be pretty significant, but within that we have to start off by discussing Josh Simmons and his injury as he tore his patellar tendon last year at Ohio State, which prematurely ended his final season there. Pre-injury, I thought Josh Simmons was going to be a top 15 pick, and based on where he was, I do think that he was kind of in the Christian Darrisaw / Trent Williams mold, more so Darrisaw than Trent Williams, mainly because Trent Williams is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and in some ways he's one of one, but with the anchoring, with the mirroring of pass rush moves, I thought that there were some flashes of, again, Darrisaw and Trent Williams within Josh Simmons' game. But Josh Simmons in 2024 allowed a single pressure on 150 plus pass blocking snaps, not 6, 6, not 7, but 1. He is going to be a very, very good player if he can stay healthy. And if I do have one hot take regarding the 2025 draft and the potential butterfly effect of Josh Simmons' injury, I think that if he would have stayed healthy and based on where he was at the time of the injury in October, I think there's a very real chance that New England would have selected him where they eventually selected Will Campbell at number 4 overall. That's how high I was on Josh Simmons in the pre-draft process. Now, the injury, of course, really messes things up because you want to project that Simmons is going to be a good player and that he's going to overcome the adversity of the injury, but there's also a part where he doesn't. Now, for the sake of this, we are going to project a better case scenario. I'm not going to say that a 22-year-old first-round pick is done, he doesn't have it, and that he's not going to be the player he was. I don't want to do that, but we are going to hope for a better case scenario and hope that by mid-season, he is going to be the player that he was expected to be coming out of Ohio State. I do think if everything would have played out the right way for Josh Simmons, that it would have been very difficult for New England to pass him at number 4 overall, and as simple as it is, I really think Josh Simmons has that dog in him at the left tackle position. Now, with their second-round selection in Tennessee defensive lineman Omar Norman-Lott, I think this is kind of a complicated prospect because he did not have 100 run defense snaps in 2024 with the Volunteers, and that to me speaks volumes about what the Tennessee coaching staff thought of Omar Norman-Lott as a run defender, because he's a big 290-pound lineman, and you would obviously think that if a guy has that much mass, a guy is that athletic and powerful as Omar is in the pass rushing game, that would have at least translated to being a serviceable run defender in the run game. Now, there's definitely a scenario where Omar Norman-Lott can come in and be a good run defender for the Chiefs in 2025 and beyond. I just think it's definitely worth noting that Tennessee had him play in 13 games last year, and he had less than 100 snaps against the run. I feel like the Tennessee coaching staff would obviously know what they're talking about. I mean, they are at the top of their profession and SEC coaches for a reason. I just think that's definitely worth noting as we head into Omar Norman-Lott's rookie year. From a pass rushing perspective, I think he's going to be in a very favorable situation, obviously, right? Because of Chris Jones, because of George Karlaftis, he's going to receive a lot of one-on-ones. And no matter how good Omar Norman-Lott is going to be this year, just unless he's a prime Aaron Donald, which, shocking, I don't think he's going to be a prime Aaron Donald, he's never going to be the priority for opposing offensive lines. And Omar Norman-Lott showed a lot of flashes during his time at Tennessee as a pass rusher. So I think there is a very real scenario where he has a DPR role with the Chiefs in 2025 and comes in and has 4.5 or 5 sacks as a rookie and is a legit third pass rusher, of course, behind Chris Jones and George Karlaftis. The Chiefs had 2 third-round selections in Ashton Gillotte, a pass rusher from Louisville, and Noah Williams, a DB from Cal, and Noah actually had 14 interceptions over the course of his collegiate career, including 7 in 2024 alone. But with Gillotte first, I don't think he's a bad player, and I don't want it to be taken this way, but when you look at the Chiefs' pass rushing depth at the edge position with Karlaftis and Mike Dana and Charles Omenihu and Felix Ndiki-Uzama, I wonder how much Gillotte's actually going to get on the field in 2025. And again, it's not because he's a bad player, it's because I don't think there's going to be a scenario where Steve Spagnuolo says, hey, George Karlaftis, you need to come off the field so we can get Ashton Gillotte in the game, or even Mike Dana, or like we mentioned with Omenihu and Felix Ndiki-Uzama. So I do wonder how much he's actually going to play this year, and I would not expect that much rookie impact for Gillotte for that specific situation. Now, with Noah Williams, again, I think the Chiefs have a really good depth and quality corner room, so I don't think he's going to play all that much, but I think there is a path for him to have success if he does get on the field, because obviously if Trent McDuffie's on the other side, teams are really going to do everything they can to not throw his way, especially when there is a third-round rookie corner on the other side. And as we know, Noah Williams was a ball hawk during his time at Cal, so if he does get on the field, don't be surprised if he has 2 or 3 interceptions during the 2025 season alone. They selected Utah State receiver Jalen Royals in the 4th round, and this was a player I actually had in my top 70, and I really like Jalen Royals as a receiving prospect because I thought he was a really smooth, tempo-based route runner, and I think he's also a pretty high IQ player based on what we saw at Utah State. Now, the offense unfortunately was limited for him, and they had him run a lot of gimmick routes, or just routes that you're not going to run every single play and at the amount that he did during his time at Utah State. But if he does get on the field in 2025, this may be a 2026 case for him. I do think there is potential there. Overall, I really like the Chiefs 2025 class, especially considering they didn't have their first selection until the 32nd pick when they selected Ohio State tackle Josh Simmons. This should be another good class from GM Brett Veach, and there's a reason the Chiefs are amongst the best in the business of what they do. And for the 2025 Chiefs team preview, we welcome on a very special guest. It is Cole DeRoos from HBTC. How about those Chiefs YouTube channel? Cole, how are we doing?
Doing fantastic. Training camp's around the corner, and then we get to go again.
Absolutely. So second straight year we have you on for the Chiefs. There'll probably be a third year next year if you can make that happen. But
Always.
awesome. Let's just go ahead and just dive right in. Let's just get the ugly out of the way just from the start. We'll just dive right in. At what point in the Super Bowl were you just like, "Yep, we're done. We're just this is not our day. This is it."
Pick six made it very tough. I think it was 17-0 on that pick six, Cooper DeJean. But I've seen the Chiefs come back from some crazier stuff, and they've been down in I feel like every single Super Bowl at some point. But yeah, once it hit like 24, I think the next time they scored, it was 24-0, and I was like, yeah, that's game.
Now, yeah. Off of that, I would like you to describe the 24 Chiefs season in one word. It was I'll let you just describe it in one word the whole year.
I would just say stressful.
No, it's with the intro of the video, I actually said that the Chiefs 24 season was anything but stress-free. Now, which win was your favorite out of any of the regular season wins? Because there was a handful of them.
Yeah, sure. And when I say stressful, it's just because, the Chiefs won 15 games, but there was like 12 one-score games, and they were down all these people because of injuries, not explosive, and just gritting out very insane, stressful wins at the end of these games. And that's where it gets to my answer. The Broncos blocked walk-off field goal was by far my favorite. I mean, there's a few cool ones, but to win a game it was a chip shot. It was like a 35-yard field goal. To win the game like that, when I fully submitted to the Broncos winning that game. I was like, yeah, it's over.
Did you?
I just lost my mind on that. Yeah.
Did you message a certain Broncos YouTuber after the game by chance?
Oh, I made a video of my reaction and his reaction and spliced them together.
I love it. I love it. So you enjoyed that one more than a little lighter paycheck maybe in week 2 against the Bengals, with a slight push off, maybe one of those.
I mean, there was a lot of crazy ones. The toe week 1 with the Ravens. I mean, there was so many that was just like, good God, how are they still winning? So there was a lot last year. It was just the fact that they even made it to the Super Bowl is basically a miracle. And people are just going to say, oh, it's because of the refs. Well, no, it's just because they're good. But when you're down all these players, you're injured, and Joe Thuney's your left tackle, and he's your left guard normally, and you just squeak by these wins. You get past the Bills in the conference championship, and you make it back. I knew the Chiefs were outmatched. I didn't anticipate it being that bad, though.
Very fair. Now, off of that, talking about injuries, talking about the O-line just really being decimated at times last year. What is your biggest concern with this team heading into 25?
Yeah, I think I have a big concern on offense and defense. The question mark for me on offense is still the left side of the O-line because, you did sign Jalen Moore in free agency. He's had 12 career starts. You drafted Josh Simmons in round 1, and he's ahead of his rehab. He's looking really good, but he is still a rookie coming off of a patellar tendon injury. That's a season-ending knee injury that some people never quite look right from ever. So the left tackle spot, yes, I am optimistic, though, that either Jalen Moore or Josh Simmons will be better than anybody that was left tackle last year. But left guard, you go from Joe Thuney, one of the best guards in all of football, trade him to the Bears, and now Kingsley Suamataia, who was your perceived to be left tackle coming out of training camp last year, he's going to be guard, and he's never played guard before in his life. Now, everybody is high on him from the coaching staff and all that, and how his raw traits can translate to the guard spot to better benefit him rather than playing on the outside. But the left side of the O-line, at least on offense, is probably my biggest question mark still.
So off of that, just with the Josh Simmons part, which rookie are you most looking forward to watching play?
I mean, my favorite pick was Noel Williams, the cornerback out of Cal. I just don't think he's going to get much playing time. So Josh Simmons is a guy that I am watching closely because if he's playing, that means he's ahead of his rehab, and that's great. I hope he doesn't have to if he's not quite ready because Jalen Moore can kind of fit in. But Omar Norman-Lott is probably the guy on the defensive side of the ball that has the easiest path to playing time because outside of Chris Jones, they did sign Jerry Tillery. you got a couple guys in the interior, but you need Omar Norman Lott to really help out there in the interior.
I'm right there with you. I think there's a clear path for Norman Lott to have not just a couple of starts in his rookie season, but really to have an impactful rookie season. When you talk about situations set up for success with Jones next to him, with Karlaftis on the outside, there's a clear path for Norman Lott to have, a 30-40 pressure rookie season. And I don't want to say defensive rookie of the year conversation, but there's a path for him to be a contributor in year one. He's definitely, outside of Josh Simmons, the guy that I'm most looking forward to with the 2025 Chiefs draft class. Now, regarding the Chiefs offense, there's a lot that went wrong last year, both from a controllable sense and a non-controllable sense. Which player are you most looking forward to having back? Where he scores that first touchdown in week one, you're going to be like, thank God he's back.
I mean, probably every single Chiefs fan, or the majority, will say Rashee Rice, because it was insane until he got injured. They were clearly funneling the offense through him rather than Travis Kelce, and you could kind of see, oh, okay, Travis Kelce's not going to have to always be the guy at the age of 34, 35 years old, which is not ideal. And then he went down to injury, super fluke. Mahomes shouldered him.
Right.
Crazy. He was top 5 in most wide receiver metrics through 3 weeks of football last year. So I'm definitely excited about the return of Rashee Rice. And then if I want to do a 1A, 1B, Pacheco just coming back and looking right. That's the hope and the optimistic viewpoint of him in the running back room, because he clearly wasn't right at the end of the year when he was able to return.
So do you think Isaiah Pacheco can clear 1,000 yards this year? I mean, Andy Reid's obviously an offensive line coach first and foremost, kind of wants to play that physical brand of football. You think Pacheco has the 1,000-yard season in him?
It's possible, but the running back room is really weird to me, because I just don't know how it's going to shake out because of a couple different things. You do have Kareem Hunt with a full offseason under his belt. I think he's your short yardage guy, but then they signed Elijah Mitchell, who didn't play at all last year. Very serious hamstring injury, put him on IR for the entire year. The Chiefs had some luck doing that, taking a flyer on Jerick McKinnon years back when he missed, I think, back-to-back years. And so the hope is Elijah Mitchell can contribute, and he's the young guy. So is Pacheco, but if Elijah Mitchell stays healthy, I could see him and Pacheco kind of splitting, and I don't know that anybody cracks 1,000 yards in that room. I would be pretty surprised. It's always running back by committee for the most part, but then the Chiefs run the ball not very often. I mean, Kelce says, when it comes down to it, we want the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands. So last year they were like 23rd or 24th in run play percentage. So bottom of the league for sure.
Very fair. So do you, this is another draft pick that we did not discuss, but do you think Brashard Smith, the back from SMU, are there any hopes for him? I know he was a really late round pick, but do you think he makes the final 53, or where do you stand on him entering the year?
I mean, right now I have him making the 53 for sure, because when you look at the running back room from a contractual standpoint, Pacheco's on the last year of his deal, Kareem Hunt 1-year deal, Elijah Mitchell 1-year deal. There's no future in that room outside of Brashard Smith. I think he makes the roster, but I'm going to temper expectations on what he actually does this year. Can he be your receiving back? Yeah, he's going to be fun because he's the converted wide receiver, but I don't know if he's going to be able to handle pass protection assignments like as your third down back or something like that from the jump his rookie year with that limited experience just overall as a running back.
No, very fair. So last question on the offensive side of the ball, then we'll transition to the defensive. Give me a just 0 through 10, a worry about both tackle spots, Juwan Taylor, and then of course we discussed the left tackle situation. Where do you stand just on a scale of 1 through 10, a worry level about the offensive tackle situation?
I mean, we'll give some context, because my worry level last year, as we were just into the season, was about an 8. I'm at about a 5. And some of that's just because we don't know what we don't know. The pads haven't come on at training camp. The what if of Jalen Moore, Josh Simmons. Juwan Taylor, I'm not super worried about him as long as he can figure out how to not get flagged. If he's not getting flagged, he's an above average right tackle. Is he playing up to the expectations of his $20 million per year contract? No. But if he's not the most flagged tackle in the NFL, which he has been over the last 2 years or very close to it, he's fine. So my concern level is roughly at about a 5, but it could go down Ask me week 3, week 4, and I'll give you a better answer for that.
It's very fair. I was really high on Josh Simmons coming out of Ohio State. I think he's kind of in that Christian Darrisaw mold of a left tackle. Just as long as he stays healthy, I think there's a very real reality where the Chiefs walk out of the 25 draft with the top 10 or 12 player in the class. Now on the defensive side of the ball, where do we stand on Felix and Adike Uzama entering year 3? Big year for him. Where do we stand?
I don't know yet. I want him to be more. He did show a little bit more flashes last year, so there is some promises there. But when you look at a guy drafted late round 1, ideally, and this is probably above average, but you want George Karlaftis. You want some production, 70 pressures back-to-back seasons. That's a dream. FAU has been kind of the opposite so far, but I don't like writing people off until after year 3. That's where we really know. Even Sky Moore, I know you're asking about defense, but even Sky Moore heading into year 3 last year, I was like, hey, let's give him one more year and just see. He has not lived up to his second-round selection, but then after year 3, it's like, okay, I don't know that Sky Moore makes the roster this year. I would be pretty surprised at this point. But FAU, I hope so. It does help, though, that they're not necessarily going to have him play a big role because Amenahu's back and healthy. You still have George. You have Mike Dana. You then drafted Ashton Gelati. So I'm going to temper expectations on FAU, but I hope he surprises me and kind of balls out because we're all hoping for that in some capacity.
I'm with you. I'm going to be honest. The way that I structure the videos, we have the defensive part before the interview. So I voiced my concerns with FAU. I don't think he's going to work out in Kansas City long term. I hope I'm wrong though. He's only 23, so it's not like he was a 24-year-old rookie and was going on 26 in year 3. So there's still a path for him. But I did want to talk about, like you mentioned, Chris Jones and George Karlaftis. Where do you stand on the pass rushing room after that? Because we saw Philly with just countless guys in the Super Bowl. If it wasn't Jalen Carter, it was somebody else. Are you at all worried about the depth of the Chiefs pass rush in 25?
I do feel better about it in some capacity just because you have a Amenahu now, and I think that's a huge boost to the D-line. Even when he came back last year from the ACL, he didn't play the first half of the season. First 60% of the season, he did not look right. He would tell you too. He was not out there looking how he was pre-injury. So having him back fully healthy, I think it adds a pretty big boost. And then kind of the flip side of that, they really upgraded the cornerback room with Christian Fulton in free agency. You draft Noel Williams. You still have McDuffie. You have Jalen Watson. That should allow McDuffie to kick into the slot. And I just think the cornerback room is going to be better in coverage, and that will help the pass rush at times be able to get home. They went from second in the NFL 2 years ago in sacks to average, or they only had 30-something sacks last year, I believe it was. And I think coverage, the inability for a cornerback to stay with their man really affected the pass rush. So I think beefing up the cornerback room is going to help the D-line as a whole. They did lose Turk Wharton. That is a slight concern because he had a great season, but that's why I'm pretty high/hopeful. Maybe it's hopium, I don't know, on Omar Norman-Lott.
Hey, I'm with you on Omar Norman-Lott. I loved him coming out of Tennessee. I think he's going to be a disruptor, and he has very heavy hands. So I love the interior D lineman that just you can see the punch when they have legit knockback power. So I do love that with Omar Norman-Lott. Now this is a very just straightforward question. How do you feel about the linebacking room?
Yeah, it's interesting. I just did an interview with a guy who has talked ball about the Chiefs for a long time, and he actually said the linebacker room is probably his biggest concern on the defense. My biggest question mark for me personally is going to be the safety room. Just with Justin Reed gone, can Jaden Hicks take the big step up that we're hoping he can? I think he has the ability to, but there's still the question mark there. The linebacker room, yes, you did lock up Nick Bolton to a multi-year deal. We know his strengths. Super high IQ, great against the run. His instincts are crazy, but limited in coverage. Drew Tranquill, we were hoping for at least an even playing field from a talent level from 2 years ago to last year, and he took a step down. So you had the step down in coverage ability just overall with Drew Tranquill. Then Chamari Connor was playing in the slot instead of Trent McDuffie, and they got abused in the middle of the field. Leo Chanel is in the room too, but he's not he's not going to be your coverage guy either. You drafted Jeffrey Bassa in 5th round, but he's a rookie, so I don't know how much he's going to play out there. So there is a little bit of concern there, but that's why I just kind of hope, can the outside corners that the Chiefs made an emphasis to get via draft, free agency, and then average injury luck, just don't let Jalen Watson break his ankle. Can Trent McDuffie kick in the slot and just help the middle of the field at times? I think that would be a great benefit for the defense.
No, it's very fair. And I'm going to be honest. I like Bolton. I love Leo Chanel. I loved him as a prospect coming out of Wisconsin. I want him to see him get more PT in 25. I think he's a really, really good player. But going to the safety room, you said it was a little bit of a concern. On a scale of 1 to 10, where do we stand? Just worry level. If the O-line was a 5, where's the safety room?
Yeah, probably like a 3.5, 4. And it's only because I saw really good flashes from Jaden Hicks as they increased his playing time last year. So I am very optimistic there. But then they also just upgraded the cornerback room. I know it's not the same, but Spags has guys flying around everywhere. And if you've got the upgraded cornerback room, I'm okay with a small step back in the safety room if you have to, especially given the fact that I like how the D-line is shaping up as well.
I'm with you. I actually will do a breakout player here in a minute, but Jaden Hicks, little spoiler, will be my breakout player for the Chiefs this year. I don't think it's a coincidence. He had multiple interceptions last year, looked to be in the right place at the right time. As simple as the idea is, having smart players helps, and I think Jaden Hicks is going to be kind of an unsung hero of the 2025 Chiefs defense. So, do you have any? This is just a kind of a macro question here. Do you have any concerns about having to pay all of those guys from 21 and 22 and then having to redraft, not to the level, but just any concerns about having all of the high priced players that every Chiefs fans know is coming up?
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of concern there, but I think they have tried to help absorb the losses after this year. When you bring in Christian Fulton on a 2-year deal, you picked up the 5th-year option on Trent McDuffie. There was 5 guys in the secondary from that 2022 draft class. Yeah, Brian Cook's on his last year, Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams. There will be some worry potentially, but they have another draft still to address it. And then you hope like Noel Williams steps up in year 2, which would be next year. And then you still have Fulton around, McDuffie. I feel okay about it. You also picked up George Karlaftis' 5th-year option, so he's around at least for next year as well. Pacheco, he's on the last year of his deal. There is Leo Chanel. There's a couple of guys. That was a huge draft class, a huge win because you used a lot of picks from the Tyreek Hill trade, and a lot of them were W's. And that was very helpful and pretty pivotal to staying young, staying cheap on that side of the ball, and making it to 3 Super Bowls in a row. So there is some concern there. I think they addressed part of it now, and hopefully they just are able to hit again in free agency in the draft next year. You got to think about a couple players who could be done. Travis Kelce, $20 million cap hit. If he's on his last year, that frees up some space. You move on from Jawan Taylor, save whatever, $20-ish million. There are some ways to save money. That's obviously the offensive side of the ball, but it's just a big, you know how it goes, big game of chess and balancing these contracts.
No, for sure. I was wondering just how Chiefs fans feel like knowing that the shoe is about to fall with all of those guys on the cheap deals, and you're getting $20 to $25 million of production from Trent McDuffie every year for like $3 or $4 million, and knowing that knowing the contract's coming up. And look, if you could have that class, anybody would take it, knowing what's gonna come at the end, which is the contracts. And the same thing applies to George Karlaftis too. Now, very dumb question, because when you sit back in May and June, you, at least as a Vikings fan, I sit here and think like, okay, like we have this tough patch of at Green Bay, at Seattle, or whoever, right? Do you as a Chiefs fan sit back and think like, man, like this is a tough patch coming up in the schedule, or you just like, screw it, like this is who we play, we're going to probably beat them and move on?
I think every year I look at the schedule and I'm like, God, that looks tough. But it's kind of champagne problems in the sense of when you win your division every year, you're getting a lot of the tough teams. But there is that first half of the season in particular. There's a bunch of playoff teams in there. I mean, the Bills, you've got the Eagles, you've got the Commanders, the Chargers week 1 in Brazil. So the first half of the schedule, as I look at it, is definitely like, okay, there's a lot of tough games. But even in the back half, I think there's a bunch of AFC West opponents or AFC West games. So Raiders, Chargers, Broncos twice in the back half. Those are not going to be easy opponents. I think the Chiefs win the West this year, but the West got better every team. So it's not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. I still have the Chiefs winning about 12, 13 games, somewhere right around there.
Okay. Now, I do have a personal question here. Have you had a conversation with your kids like, hey, you know, normal teams don't win the division every year for the rest of your life. Have you had that conversation yet? Has that came up?
My kids are they're 7 and 5, and they just know that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are dating, basically. But
Gotcha.
So no, I have not talked to them about that. But I do try to talk with. That's just like younger Chiefs fans in Chiefs Kingdom. They're ultra critical at times on Brett Veach, Andy Reid, Kelce, this, that. And I'm like, all you guys know is winning. Go back 10 plus years, and there was not a lot of winning. And so I'm very grateful. It's not normal to win this much. You can ask Patriots fans, Cowboys fans, going back over the decades. So I'm just trying to be grateful and know that eventually Kelce will be done sooner rather than later. Same with Chris Jones, Andy Reid, who knows how long he's going to be coaching. So I'm just trying to enjoy the ride while we're here.
Very fair. Very fair. So I do want to just go into rapid fire. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. As mentioned earlier, my breakout player, Jaden Hicks, who's a good candidate for a breakout player this year.
Yeah. The problem is that is definitely mine. That's who I'm hoping for. But if I had to pick somebody else, we'll go offense, and I'm just going to hope that Josh Simmons, if he is out there and has to play, it's hard to evaluate that sometimes, because sometimes you're only mad at a tackle if Mahomes is getting hit. But I do hope if he's out there, he just stays healthy and he plays at a average to slightly above average level. And that's a breakout to me in regards to left tackle play, especially compared to the year prior.
Very fair. So we'll go over-unders now. Over-under Rashee Rice, 1,000 yards on the dot.
If he's not suspended,
right,
I'm in. Over.
Okay. Now, same exact yardage for Xavier Worthy.
I'd probably go under, but I think it's close. I think the possibility of Rice and Worthy getting 1,000 is like right there.
Okay. Now, we didn't ask this, but where does Patrick Mahomes rank quarterback-wise?
Like after the season's over, or like right now, in my opinion, heading into the season?
Both.
Yeah, I still have him at the top, but I don't think the gap is as wide as it used to be per se, especially when you're looking at stats over the last couple of years. I mean, I could go through the things, but I don't need to. But last year, when you look at the Chiefs, the least explosive offense, run game, pass game, it was bad. A lot of injuries. Still, with that, average offense in most metrics, third best on third downs. The ability to still sustain long drives, put up enough points to win a game, and that's even with the defense taking a bit of a step back. I think that is the Patrick Mahomes effect, doing more with less. He didn't have a lot by the time all those injuries hit the room. And you could say, well, he had Kelce. Kelce's not getting any younger, and he's not who he once was. I just watched some highlights of Kelce from 2018. That dude was burning corners. I mean, he's insane. He's still above average, top 5-7 tight end in the NFL, even at that age. But I still have Mahomes at QB1. I think he probably, as long as the health holds up, I think he's back up at about 4,500 yards by the time the season's over.
Okay, so Mahomes has, it's been acknowledged, the 22 season phenomenal year, and then the 23-24, just the big dip in touchdowns. So we're going to set the line a little lower for him this year. Over under 29.5 passing touchdowns.
I am going to hit over. I don't know how much over to some extent, but I do feel good about mid-30s on touchdowns and 45-ish 100 yards. Again, if average injury luck falls the Chiefs' way on offense this year.
Very fair. So last one, over under Chiefs AFC Championship game appearance.
We'll go over. I think they make it back.
Okay.
I understand some people think it's a drought or they're not going to recover. It's just hard to, until they've proved to me otherwise, it's very hard to bet against it. It's 7 years in a row now, I believe, making it. So until somebody proves me wrong, especially considering they still have all their main pieces, Kelce, Chris Jones, Andy Reid, Spags, Defense upgraded in the cornerback room. Left tackle spot, in theory, addressed. The wide receiver room, possibly one of the deepest in Patrick Mahomes' career since Tyreek Hill left. So there's a lot to be optimistic about. People are pretty down on the Chiefs because they hate the Chiefs because they win all the time. I get it, active dynasty kind of stuff. But I'm pretty optimistic that they make another deep playoff run. And I'll give you one more over-under. I think Kelsey is probably under 800 yards this year with Rice and Worthy kind of eating up a lot of that.
Okay, I'll just say this: if I would really hate for my team to win 3 Super Bowls and then have 3 Super Bowls in 5 years and then have a drought be talked about. That'd be a real shame. That'd be a real shame to be in that position. So Cole, I do appreciate you joining. Appreciate the time, and let everybody know where they can find your work.
Yes, sir. How about those Chiefs on any social HBTC? I'm around, and try to give props. I know I'm a spoiled Chiefs fan, but at the end of the day, it's hard to make it back to the Super Bowl. The longer I do this, the more respect I have for other teams, for the greats, whether it's QBs, running backs. I mean, I said all last year, Saquon Barkley is probably the best player in the NFL right now, and I still think that he's absolutely incredible. So a lot of props and credit to a lot of the teams out there right now.
All right. Yeah, well, no doubt, Cole. I appreciate you joining, and good luck. Best of luck to the Chiefs this year.
Let's go, man. Thanks for having me.
A big thank you to Cole for stopping by and talking about the 2025 Chiefs, and I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channels. We're closing in at 200,000 subscribers, and I cannot thank you guys enough for the support. Until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.